All right, big hour. Connor Brown coming up here in just a moment. Connor's played in Toronto, Ottawa, was in Washington, had an ACL injury that really kept him out of the lineup last year. Only played 4 games.
Yeah.
And now he's back in the Canadian market, signing in Edmonton.
With his old junior team.
Yes.
Another guy named Connor. What's his name? Connor something. I don't know.
Something McDavid or whatever it is. Yeah, Erie Otters, they connected where they obviously had a great run there. Connor Brown had himself a great season. You know, I think he was the CHL Player of the Year.
128 points or something.
Yeah.
Comes to mind.
Yeah, like he was a great junior player, clearly. And like the Leafs got him late in the draft. And then you could tell pretty quickly this guy's making it. Like he is going to be a part of the program. And he broke with the Hyman, Kapanen, Willie group.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was I think Babcock's first year, Lou's first year, I believe. And it was right before Matthews showed up. And then at the same time, obviously, Marner came up with Matthews. But it was around the trade deadline or just after. That's when Willie came up, Brown came up, Hyman came up. I want to say Kapanen came up.
That's right. Yeah.
They all kind of came up together, and then they win the lottery, and it's like, all right, Matthews is coming, Marner's coming, now you really got something.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. And like it's amazing how the salary cap has been squeezing the Leafs and other teams, clearly, but well before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a situation where Brown, they had to throw him in to get rid of the Zaitsev deal.
That's what it was.
And
they didn't want to lose him.
They didn't want to lose him, and you knew that the guy was a good player, and he was going to keep getting paid, and you're going to have to pay him more and more money. And
to see the deal he signed at Edmonton, speaking of, innovative cap stuff, like he's got a minimum salary deal with bonuses that can get him up to $4 million.
Right. Exactly.
But the AAV on the books is $775.
Sure. And that'll be retroactive the next year.
Right.
Where Edmonton might get hit if he hits those numbers. And I think if he stays healthy and he plays with McDavid, he's going to hit those numbers.
That's the thing.
I think
they'd be happy to see it.
I think you're seeing that, a lot throughout the league, and I think you've seen that a lot in these two cases with Brown going to Edmonton, and I think Bertuzzi coming here to Toronto, where Bertuzzi looks at it and says, "Man, I got room on the left side up here in Toronto."
Yeah, they've been looking for a guy like me.
They're dying for a guy like me.
Yeah.
I'm probably playing with Matthews. At worst case, I'm playing with Tavares.
That's right.
And if Bertuzzi stays healthy, I think he's going to score 25 plus, 50 plus points.
Why wouldn't he?
And then all of a sudden, you're looking at really cashing in. I think Connor Brown looks at the same thing. He's like, man, the right side out in Edmonton looks wide open to me.
Exactly.
Right? On the other side, you got Kane, you got Hyman that plays on his offside. I'll step in there and play with Connor and or Leon Draisaitl and try to put up 50-plus points and get paid.
Think that might go okay?
I think that's a pretty good sales pitch.
Guy skates well. He's a smart player. Like he can just go out there as long as he stays healthy for the majority of the year. He's gonna you just can't not score points.
You can't not score points on that team playing with those centers.
Yeah.
If you are one of the lucky few players in the league that get to team up with either McDavid or Draisaitl, you're catching shrapnel. You're catching second assists.
Oh,
not that you're not going to drive offense on your own at times, but if you're out there enough and you connect with those guys, they are going to make your life easy.
Yeah.
And you're going to put up points. Like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had 100 points last year.
That?
Zach Hyman, I don't know if he ended up with 90 plus, but he was on pace for 100 at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And like both of them are really good players, clearly. Really, really good players. And a lot of Nugent-Hopkins was that power play was historically great.
Right.
Historically great. And Nugent-Hopkins was racking up points on the power play.
Sure.
But 5-on-5, if you're playing with McDavid and Draisaitl, you are in a driver's seat towards points. Like you're going to produce.
Oh.
You just got to take advantage of the situation.
Oh, it's a great place for him to land.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a genius move. I mean, there was talk the Leafs would be interested in him, but to your point about opportunity, there's for him it's like at best you're third in the batting order.
It's the same thing when he was
on
here.
the wing. Yeah.
He saw it was going to be Marner and Willie, and then and then you're fighting with Yarncroke on the third line or whoever else it's going to be. So really, nothing's changed in Toronto since Connor Brown left.
No.
Still the same thing. It's Marner and Willie, and then you're fighting for whatever else is there, unless you can play on your offside. But not everyone's comfortable with doing that. But yeah, it's a good situation in Edmonton, man. Really, really good situation. And he's coming off an ACL injury again. Could only play 4 games last year, but he's been on the show many times before. One of our favorites. Used to have him on. I think we had him on when he was in Erie. Feel like we did. Certainly when he was with the Marlies. Former Leaf, currently an Edmonton Oiler. Here's Connor Brown. How you doing, Connor?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. How's the knee working out these days?
Yeah, the knee's good. The knee's good. We've been working hard, getting after it for the last 8 months. So a few months to go on the rehab, but it's feeling strong.
Attaboy. Well, you end up signing in Edmonton, and Dave and I were talking about this situation where, if you can jump on board with McDavid and or Draisaitl, that seems like a pretty good sales pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, exactly. I mean, just the state of the team and where they're at. They're pushing every year to get over that hump and win a cup. And obviously, it would be amazing to get on a line with those guys offensively. And I'm sure I'll be on with both of them at times. I'm sure I'll see some time on the third line and more of a shutdown role at times. And so I'm just going to embrace any role I get. I'm just looking forward to helping that team try to win.
So take us through the process. I mean, how wide a net did you and your camp cast, Connor, when it came to finding a new place to play, and how did you wind up in Edmonton?
I was pretty blessed that a lot of teams reached out. Had a lot of interest, and so that was great after what was a very disappointing year and a frustrating one on the shelf all year dealing with an ACL, which is not an easy rehab. So it was a lot of interest, and when it came down to it, I just tried to find for a 1-year deal, try to find the best place where I feel like I can fit in the best and play my game and contribute the most.
Yeah, that must have been wild for you last year because, you've been relatively healthy throughout your career, and it was such an extreme injury where you knew once it happened, okay, you're done for the season, and that's that. And you're hitting UFA status. So, what was that process like, in December, January, where you're early into it? I guess that would have been kind of a dark time. And now that you're through it, how do you look back on it in terms of knowing, okay, you got through it, you mentioned it, a lot of teams were still knocking on your door, and you got a great opportunity here?
Yeah, it was. There were some dark days for sure. There were some dark days laying on my couch, just waiting. All you can do is wait at a certain point. You go into the gym, you work on your mobility and your strength, and then you just wait. And so it's there were some very long days in January and December, and it's such a great feeling to be signed and to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel and to work towards something now. I was working towards that July 1 all season, and now I get to work towards something bigger and something not just about me. It's makes it a little easier to kind of make sure I'm coming to camp in shape for my teammates and contributing.
So how much of a factor, is the fact that you had some built-in relationships there? Obviously, with that other guy named Connor, we know you had a junior hockey career that overlapped with his, and obviously a lot of mutual success in Erie. And obviously Zach Hyman, your former teammate here, and your gym mate. I remember Mike Babcock always talking about how you and Hyman were monsters in the gym, competing against each other on the squat rack and all the rest of it. How big a factor, Connor, was it to have the friendly faces in your potential landing spot?
No, it was huge. That was huge. To go. I kind of realized last year it's not easy to go into a situation where you don't know anybody, and so going out there on a 1-year deal, I think I'll be able to get acclimated pretty quickly. Knowing a lot of the guys, not only those two guys, there's a few other guys in the roster that I know that are from the Toronto area. But listen, like Connor and Hyman and a lot of other guys there, but those two guys in particular, from the guys that I've played with, the way they prepare, the way that they're dedicated to their craft, that's the type of environment I want to be a part of. And so I'm just pumped to get her going.
With Connor Brown, newest member of the Edmonton Oilers, and Dave mentioned he had a couple of years in Erie. When McDavid was there as a 15-year-old, as a 16-year-old, you had more points than him, I believe, both years. I don't think that's ever happened. I don't think there's anyone else that could necessarily say that.
Yeah, last guy, I think. Yeah, there you go.
That's probably right. The last guy to play with him that had more points, that'd be you and Erie. But that was a while ago. I mean, you guys are young guys. You're teenagers. You're in the O. How much faith do you have that, there'll be a quick connection there, a reconnection, and you guys can kind of build on what was cooking back in Erie in the day?
Well, listen, he's not a very difficult guy to play with. He creates a lot of room out there.
Right.
And so, I think that my ability to read the ice and see the game is something that's going to serve me well if I get put on his line at times next year. We were able to play a little bit of scrimmage together at the Biosteel camp last year, and it was he's a fun guy to play with. Obviously the pace he plays at, he slows down the game, and so he makes it pretty easy for his line mates. But I'm sure that I'll get acclimated pretty quickly.
With Connor Brown, obviously, as we've been saying, he didn't get a real chance to get a kick at it with Washington last year, only playing 4 games. So I don't know how much of the American experience you actually got from that, but all you've known effectively in your career is playing in Canada, starting with the Leafs, then Ottawa, and now you're in Edmonton. And that's a big discussion in the country, over the last couple of years. Who's comfortable playing up here, why they're comfortable playing up here. And I guess you're the perfect guy to ask because you're coming back. What is it about the Canadian market that you seem to embrace?
Well, I think the educated fans. I mean, not all fans, but the fans are obviously they know it. They're a lot of the times down south. They're looking at wins and losses, and they don't really understand what drives plays. And the hockey's embedded in this culture and embedded in this country, and everybody knows. Has an opinion at least on who does what and what way your team should play, and I think that's something that's awesome. Also, I don't think there'd be a cooler thing to do to bring the Stanley Cup back north of the border and for the whole country. And so, to be able to be a part of doing something like that would be amazing, and that's all the more incentive.
Connor, looking at the more important matters here, looking at the Golf Canada handicap lookup, I see you're running about a 4 on the index. How's the golf game?
The golf game is actually, when I was on the couch for about 6 months there, and just mentally grindy, just looking to get out, and so I played a little bit of golf in May and beginning of June. And, I think I got about 15 rounds in, and the game was feeling good. And I played round 1 on my scratch match at Markland Woods where I play. And I got through round 1. I think I shot in the low 70s, felt good. But I've been on the ice the last couple of weeks, and so haven't played much golf at all. So I had to go round 2 against the club champ, a kid that plays, and he closed me out on 11. So,
ooh, whoa, that's not good.
No, that's I was 6 over. He was 2 under through 11, and that was it.
Yeah, that's troublesome, man. Those young guys, when they start cooking, that gets depressing, though, doesn't it? Yeah. When young guys are starting to bury you on the course.
Yeah, exactly. The game wasn't very tidy, and. Yeah, it was. I paid for it.
Yeah, shaking hands on 11 green is tough.
That is tough.
Yeah. My dad told me he got closed out on a better ball match on the 10th hole one time, so it made me feel a bit better. Yeah,
that's a worse. Believe me, I've been there too, man. When you know it's coming, the hat comes off on 10. You're like, hey, great job. Like, sorry.
What else can
you're
you say?
apologizing. You're like, sorry, I didn't give you a match. Like, you crushed it. Right? Yeah. You're Tiger. I'm Stephen Ames. You dummied me out here, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, exactly.
With Connor Brown, you mentioned, the idea of bringing a cup back to Canada. It's been 30 years. You weren't born the last time there was a Canadian team that actually won one back in '93. Obviously, the Canadian players are aware of that, but do you get the sense, like, non-Canadian players are aware of that history up here?
A little bit, actually. You know what? From some of my conversations with some media members down south in Washington, they had some. They had their opinions on why they don't think a Canadian team has won it in so long, and this, that, and the other thing. And so, as a Canadian boy, you take some pride in thinking that it can happen. It's just a matter of time. So,
well, any of those theories hold water for you? Like, what do you hear on that front? Like, what is the prevailing theory of why a Canadian team hasn't won it in so long, Connor?
Well, I think maybe their opinion is all the opinions and potential negativity surrounding certain teams and certain players, and just the microcosm of every play. But I think that's what also makes it so great to play in Canada. The fans they care about every play. They're on their edge of their seat. They're not just checking the standings, showing up for the playoffs.
Yeah. I'd love to come across an American media guy. Teams lost 10 in a row. What, you're going to write a puff piece because, and that's going to help them win the Stanley Cup? I mean, I don't know. It is strange that it's been 30 years, but you guys obviously feel pretty good about your chances out in Edmonton. I think in Toronto they feel pretty good about their chances too. So
yeah,
at some point it's going to break through, right? You got to believe
Absolutely.
it will.
Yep.
Just a matter of time. Well, we wish you nothing but success, Connor. We're obviously big fans. We've been tracking, you throughout your career, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see you out there in Edmonton. So congrats on that. Have a great rest of the summer, and we'll catch up again soon.
Okay, I appreciate it, fellas. Take care.
You got it, Connor Brown. Yeah, I understand that is a prevailing theory, especially down in the South, but it's basically admitting, like, media members are what, you're rooting for the team all the time,
it's crazy.
Like, you're never critical of
the Boston media is not easy on the Bruins if they stink.
Right.
Like, like the New York media is not easy on the Rangers and the Devils if they stink.
Right.
Now, granted, it's not the same as if the Celtics stink or if the Knicks stink. It's not as big.
Sure.
In terms of just like
the pecking order is different.
But it's pretty big in Boston. It's like, it was like Chicago Blackhawks, like they were a massive team when they were good.
Yeah.
Guess what? When they stunk, they got a lot of coverage too.
Well, and
it
even
wasn't positive.
When you talk about pecking order, like the LA is a Lakers town, but the Lakers win all the time.
Right.
So whatever you're going to get in Toronto, Edmonton, Ottawa, Montreal, you're getting it with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every NFL team is covered with, hundreds and hundreds of media.
That's the thing.
And tons of like pressure and negativity. It doesn't seem to affect them.
Doesn't affect the New York Yankees. I mean, they haven't won in a while, but they've won an awful lot.
Yeah, exactly.
They're always good.
No one believes they lose because of the the coverage.
That's the thing.
I guess that's the way to put it. Like when the Yankees lose, it's not, people are too hard on the Yankees.
Right.
It's just they lost because they did something silly, or they didn't get the right pieces, or the players underperformed.
That's exactly
like it's never. Well, it's just too tough here. It's never a fishbowl,
right?
Theory
And that was, and you heard that.
Lose.
Like I remember hearing that one when before the Red Sox won, and the curse of the Bambino was, still hanging over them. There was that argument. It's too intense a market. Like we're too critical of this team.
Mm-hmm.
We micromanage baseball in this town. Like we invented it, and then guess what? They won the World Series and they won it again, and no one talks about that anymore.
Yeah,
And it's not an excuse.
No, exactly.
It wasn't the reason.
It actually, in retrospect, you're like, wait a minute. It was really that you just needed the right players,
right,
and the right architect to commit to a plan and put the right pieces in place.
Exactly.
And then finally allow them to get over the top.
Like it's the biggest cop-out to say,
like,
oh, people care too much, therefore you can't win. Like, how does that make any sense?
I think if anything, what it is that the teams use that as an excuse to make stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Right? That maybe they rush. That it's not that the players in the moment can't handle it because of the noise. It's that the owners and the management don't allow it to brew properly.
Although the opposite's true maybe in this town right now.
But I think that speaks to why Shanahan keeps doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because I do think he probably saw that or maybe committed to that philosophy. And now he's in for a penny, he's in for a pound.
He's letting it brew.
He's like, I'm going down with the ship.
It's a slow brew.
Like, I'm going to do it this way. I'm committed. These are the guys. And feast or famine, we're doing it. And I guess we'll see if that ends up paying off. But I would suggest it's not the actual noise. It's the reaction to it as if it really means something.
I think you're right. You can point to a lot of examples of that over the years.
Yeah.
Certainly was an example here where it was just like,
we can't accept that. Yeah. People will kill us.
But on the other hand, you look at the teams that have been successful and having that sort of hair trigger, this ain't working, let's change course right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not wait for another year. Like, Vegas made some big changes.
Yeah, they did.
When it wasn't working.
But I think that speaks to ownership and management making those decisions, not reacting to what the outside world is suggesting and then making a plan and moving forward with it.
You're right.
Like if there's internal pressure is a good thing. Blaming your mistakes on external pressure is weak.
It is.
It's really weak. And making internal decisions and ultimately making mistakes based on external pressure is incredibly weak. But I think that's probably what's happened here in a certain amount of times. And I don't know. Like, well, listen, Edmonton and the Leafs have been knocking on the door here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they've been knocking on the door, and they can't break through. And I don't think it's because in the biggest moments, the pressure of the market just, can't make it work. I don't know. But
Probably
30 years is wild. 30 years is wild. And when you consider, yes, there have been chances to do it, and the best chance was Vancouver in 2010, I believe it was.
2011, whatever.
Like, they were legitimately the best team in the league. They were up 3-2 going back to Boston. Like, that was the chance. You've had Cinderella teams make it. Edmonton in 06, Anaheim in 07. I think Calgary in 04 was a bit of a Cinderella run.
Sure.
But it's not as if you've had a team that was the clear-cut best team in the league for like 5 years and just couldn't get there.
That's just
right.
it.
Like, you can't say that about the current Edmonton and Toronto situation. It's not like they're clear-cut the best teams in the league. No one would suggest that. They're just in the mix, and it could break their way.
You're
but
right.
30 years of really lacking like a dominant force is kind of wild, too, when you think about it.
It is.
Like,
No,
how many Canadian teams over 30 years did you legitimately think were going to win the Stanley Cup?
That's a good point. That's a good point. There haven't been a lot of favorites there.
No.
In that class.
Which is even scarier when you think about it.
Yeah. Doesn't speak well to the way these teams have been managed.
The way it's been operating for a long time. So, we'll see.
How much of that is guys don't want to play here? That's the other thing, right? Like, you know, we were talking about that the other day. Like, on the no-trade list, the 10-team no-trade lists of the world.
A lot of Canadian teams.
How many Canadian teams are on there, right?
Yeah.
How much does that affect you?
A lot of Canadian teams. Speaking of Canada, the Women's World Cup right around the corner.
Yeah.
Down in Australia. And Canadian women's soccer player, special contributor for TSN Women's World Cup coverage, Janine Beckie will join us. She was over there in Qatar doing a ton of work.
She was awesome.
Outstanding. Yeah, she was crushing it over there in Qatar. So she's going to be in studio, help us tee up the Women's World Cup, get into a number of things with her, including what's going on here behind the scenes.
So she's still playing.
Yes, she's rehabbing a serious injury right now. Like, she'd be over there if she was healthy for sure. But
she's not retired.
No, she is not. She is ready to rock, but she's rehabbing. So we'll get an update on her status and what she makes of, you know, what Canada's potential here is. Because the last time we really saw best on best, I guess, would have been at the Olympics in Tokyo, and we know what happened there.
Yeah.
Gold medal, baby.
Good things for Canada.
Very, very good things.
It's so good at the Olympics and not so good at the World Cup.
Yep.
Kind of a funny thing.
Very, very, very good things. So we'll catch up with Janine and get into that. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel a little bit later in the hour. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. We'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Tracking the Jays down in Chicago. A lot of people looking forward to tomorrow night. Alec Manoah's return. Tracking this Britney Spears versus Victor Wembanyama as well.
Keeps going.
Yeah, because Victor's made comments and now Britney's coming back disputing what he had to say.
Yeah.
And we have Janine Beckie in studio. Are you tracking this Victor versus Britney?
No idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, big
But
dispute.
I haven't been on social media all day. So
Okay.
that might be why. Also, Twitter is an interesting place to be right now.
Yeah.
There's a new social media platform.
Right.
You guys on it yet?
Are you on?
Threads?
I created an account today, so
Good.
I'm interested. It's cool.
Yeah, but Threads is like an Instagram thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This is Zuckerberg going at Elon Musk?
Yeah, it's the cage match.
Is that what it is?
The digital cage match.
Right, but what is it? Do you know what it even means? I don't even know how it operates.
Literally just like Twitter.
It looks just like Twitter.
I don't know how
It's the
that's
same
not
thing.
a copyright issue, but
Yeah,
maybe it will.
maybe it will become.
Maybe it will be.
it very well could be.
See what Elon
Very well
does.
could be.
Anyways, Britney Spears in golf.
No, she's
Crossover?
going at it with Victor Wembanyama, who was the first overall pick in San Antonio. I guess they had a little confrontation down in Vegas, and there was a security guard. I wouldn't say it got violent. It may have got physical.
Reportedly.
Yeah, and the police
Security
are
guard
involved.
took
And anyway, it's a wild scene.
Might have to.
You might want to
research
check that one
story
out.
later.
Yeah, jump on Threads and figure that one out. So Janine Beckie in studio. How's the ACL doing?
You know, I have a new ACL, which is great.
Really?
So yeah, they took my patella tendon and put it in the back of my knee. So stronger than ever. But that makes my patella tendon hurt. So, you know, it's just one of those
Does
things.
it really?
Surgery. Yeah, that's actually the hardest part of the rehab. It's like rehabbing that where they take the graft from. I'm learning lots about knee surgery, which is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, physically I'm on track. I'm doing well. Mentally, day to day. I'm having a good day today. Tomorrow, who knows? But yeah, I'm doing well.
So obviously you were aware of that going in. Like the rehab was going to be wild.
Yeah, like I've never done anything like this, which is great. I'm super lucky. I'm almost 29 and haven't had a serious injury, but there's far too many people who have had this surgery and say, warned me. I got advice from lots of people. Kia Nurse was great. She wrote me a long message on Instagram, like, here's what I did. I created a really great playlist for rehab. I recommend you do the same. And I was like, any advice, come to me.
Right.
But everyone said, like, post-surgery is definitely, like, the most difficult phase. So,
Right.
yeah, it's been tough.
It's a real connection that athletes have. We just had Connor Brown on, and he's going through the same thing. He tore his ACL. I don't know if he had it replaced or not, but he was talking about it like it's been a grind, and it was kind of a dark place. And it seems like everyone can go through knee surgeries and injuries, but they're not going to affect what they do for a living. Like I had my meniscus repaired years ago. I was on the mic a few days later.
Right.
I was complaining about it. Yeah, I'm a warrior. That's right. I truly battled through that injury. But it really is a way that it's like exclusively an athlete kind of connection, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
it's
what
odd.
I'm going through, what did you go through, and how do we recover?
Yeah, it's a weird, like, unfortunate community. Like, it's a great community, but you wish that it wasn't a community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And unfortunately in soccer, especially in women's soccer, it's so common. So I kind of go through these mental lapses where I'm like, man, this really sucks, and what was me? And then I'm like, there's so many people who have gone through this, and so many people who are going through it right now. Like there's many other big names in women's soccer missing this tournament for the same injury. So I go back and forth in my mind.
Well, you said the phrase "unfortunate community," and it's an amazing time in Canadian soccer because on the field, on the pitch, Canada's never been better on both sides, right? You've been a huge part of this women's team that is the defending Olympic gold medalists, had a couple of bronzes before that, and the men, obviously, we know you did a great job commentating at the Qatar World Cup. And yet off the field, I don't know if Canada soccer's ever been in a worse place with so much good stuff going on the field. How much is that going to affect what happens in Australia for Canada's women's national team?
Yeah, it's an odd place for those two things to kind of live in parallel. And you would think at a time when on the field performance has not ever been better, really, that off the field would be aligned with that. And I don't really know where it all went wrong. It's hard to kind of pinpoint when this all started. We've been in communication with the CSA over contracts since, 2016. It's not a new conversation for us, but there's a new reality behind it, which is the success on the men's side. And I definitely credit a lot to our men's national team who have been, in constant communication with us in our player rep group, talking to their player rep group. And it's been, we've had a lot of conversations and a lot of difficult conversations between the two of us, between us and Canada Soccer. And, that's just what it is right now. It's conversations. And we hope that we can get to a point where all parties are happy. That's yet to be seen. So yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And I just hope that the players feel like they're in a good place come July 20th to go out on the field and perform. And knowing my teammates, they're consummate professionals. And unfortunately, as an athlete, you learn compartmentalizing things becomes second nature, which in your personal life probably isn't great, but from a professional perspective, it's super helpful. So hopefully they can use those tools to be in a good place come the first game. Janine
Beckie in studio. I think a lot of Canadians wonder, why the money isn't there. And I'm curious if you can answer that for us. And if is there any bitterness towards like the private community for not investing enough? Like, is it all CSA, or is it that, some of these big companies in the country should be investing more money too?
It's a really complicated question, and it's a really complicated place when you talk about money and how it comes into the federation. And I've learned a lot about kind of the ecosystem around that. And, I won't get into the nitty gritty or speak too much on it based on the position that we're in. But I do think there's a lot of opportunity for companies to coexist in this space and for there to be avenues of investment that haven't yet been explored. So, we're having all of those conversations and we're making those suggestions, if you will. At the end of the day, the players are the ones that are being affected the most by this. And my hope is that we can get to a place where we're back at the point where the on-field performance is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the on-field stuff, we've watched this team excel at the Olympics again and again, and at the World Cup, it's been tougher slogging. Haven't had the same types of results. Any theories on why?
Yeah, I mean, our staff went into a deep dive of research to figure out all of the reasons, and a couple, that are easier to grasp is the Olympics is a 2-week-long tournament. The World Cup is a month. Got 5 days in between games at the World Cup. There's 7 games instead of 6. And I think this team really thrives off of that challenge of doing everything to the best standard. And when you're at the Olympics and you're nailing the recovery and you're nailing the nutrition and you're recovering and you have, a roster of 18 players and every player is playing their part, it kind of all came together for us. And we were able to field a team in the final that was relatively fresh. And then you bring on, the likes of Julia Grosso to score the winning penalty. And you're like, whoa, the youth of this team is really like ready for this next step. So I think the research that they've done is they really need to nail those days in between games and the process of that. And if there's anything I know about our staff, they've got like written protocols for everything. So I'm sure they're overly prepared for this tournament. And I think this is the first time I can confidently say, like, we've got the depth to win this thing.
Janine Beckie in studio, Canadian women's soccer player, special contributor for TSN's World Cup. And obviously, you as Dave referenced, you were in Qatar. You're doing a lot on the men's side. This would be a different beast for you, though. Like, this is your crew.
Yeah.
Like, how do you plan on analyzing
it's
this?
It's strange. It's hard for me. I was obviously very involved in the Men's World Cup. Super grateful for that experience. We had an incredible panel. That was fantastic. And TSN's been great. I've been so grateful to be a part of this team and network. And I've learned so much. So I've asked if I can take a little bit more of a backseat this time around. I've said I don't want to comment on Canada games. So they've given me the green light not to be involved in those.
Right.
So not to make any concontroversial comments about my teammates, let alone some of my best friends.
Right.
So I'll focus a little bit more on some of the other games that are happening. But I'm sure I'll comment at some point.
Yes.
So if you're breaking this thing down, like if FanDuel best bets are coming up, who's your best bet to win this thing outside of Canada?
I was gonna say I gotta back my crew.
I figured.
It's really tough to kind of see how this whole thing pans out, and I think that's really exciting. This is gonna be no doubt the best Women's World Cup to ever happen. Teams are better than they've ever been. Players are more talented than in large amounts than they have been before. So England, coming off their European Championship victory, are definitely riding that high. And I think it's difficult to beat a team that's as high as they are, but it can also be a downfall if it's not channeled in the right way. Spain seems to be a team that a lot of people are excited about. They've obviously got a dispute going on with their federation as well. Seems like everybody does at this point. So you never know how that will affect their performance. And then you have, the States, who are always contenders, annoyingly. But they definitely have a squad to get a three-peat. So, I'll back the Canadians all day long, but there's definitely, it could go into far more teams, Germany, Sweden. There's a lot of good teams going into the tournament.
That's the beauty of a tournament like this, right?
Yep. Anything can happen when two teams are on a pitch.
You get out there, World Cup, and it's going to be up here on the men's side in 2026. Like, how much pride do you take in that as a Canadian, the idea of us, hosting a World Cup in some capacity?
The 2015 World Cup was incredible. I think if we were to host a Women's World Cup again, the landscape would be completely different. And so I wouldn't say I'm bitter, but I feel a little bit sad that we kind of because
there was the pitch controversy.
Yeah, I just feel like we missed that boom of women's soccer, and it's just what a perfect time to host a Women's World Cup. So congratulations to Australia and New Zealand. I'll bid for a World Cup to come back to Canada. But the States and Mexico have bid for the 2027 World Cup, and if I'm FIFA, I'm granting it because you'll have already got all the hotels and logistics down from the Men's World Cup. So, to bring the Women's World Cup here and then, a decade later, bring the Men's World Cup here, it's just going to be an incredible event. And on the back end of what's going to be the best Women's World Cup ever, I think 26 will be the best Men's World Cup.
When you talk about the boom in women's sports and women's soccer, there's this talk of pro soccer finally in Canada, which has been a long discussed topic. What's your level of optimism that, what is a very daunting task to start a league from scratch is going to come off?
I'm so optimistic. I'm really excited when you have somebody like Diana Matheson behind this. One of my good friends, former teammate, there's no one better to do this project with. She's created a team that's fantastic. I know they already got some teams on board. I know there's a lot of excitement in Canadian companies and investors around the country to jump on board and be part of Project 8, which is going to be really great. And they're taking all the learnings from leagues across the world to do this in the best way and create a league that top players want to come play in. And what a better country to come live and play in than Canada. So I'm super excited for all the young people, all Canadians from west to east to be able to see professional women's soccer in their backyard on a week-to-week basis because it's not enough.
Absolutely. Women's World Cup right around the corner, down in Australia. She is Janine Beckie, Canadian World women's soccer player, special contributor for TSN's World Cup coverage. Enjoy that.
Thank you.
Great seeing you. Good luck with the rehab and getting back. Does this camera guy follow you around all the time?
You know, sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah, we got a good thing going.
Yeah,
so.
it seems like it.
I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. We appreciate you popping in. It's great seeing you.
Thanks, guys.
There's Janine Beckie. All right. Come back with our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Dodgers on the run line tonight. -1.5 against the Pirates. Urias on the mound. You pay a little juice on that, -110, but I think they win big tonight.
Okay.
If they win by 2+, I'm on it. Arizona at home against the Mets. D-backs have been good this year. The Mets have not been so good. You got to pay a little bit of juice on this, but I will take the home team, Arizona, -138 at home. A little bit of juice on that, but I like the favorites tonight. Dodgers big and Arizona over the Mets. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today. Find thousands of ways to wager. Please play responsibly. Must be 19+ and physically located in Ontario. Victor versus Brittany.
I was going to say,
who's
your best bet in Victor versus Brittany?
This is wild. Victor Wembanyama in Vegas for the Summer League. And Britney Spears, who's been running, I don't know where she like what casino she's working at, but she's been doing shows down there for a while now.
Big hit.
Big hit. I mean, one of the biggest superstars of the last 25 years. And now there's all these, he said, she said about what happened last night. Victor trying to get through the hallway of a casino, I assume, trying to get to a restaurant. Maybe Brittany was looking for a pick, and the security guard got a little bit overzealous. That might be actually an understatement.
She claims she was backhanded.
Yes. Wow. And if that happened, then someone's going to pay a price for that, for sure. Now, it won't be Victor Wembanyama, and it wasn't Victor that was doing it.
It wasn't Victor.
No, he was just walking through and speaks to what this guy is all about and what the Summer League is all about. Like it's I've heard it's bedlam down there.
Oh, it's crazy. I've been down a couple times.
Yeah. Because you get all the new guys coming in, but then a lot of the old players are there. Like LeBron's down there every year.
A lot of people are training down
there. A lot of the big names are down there. And it's Vegas, right? Like Vegas is always going to bring the stars out, and there's always people looking for stars.
That's the thing. It's crazy.
It's a weird lobby. Like the Vegas lobby is unlike any lobby you've ever experienced in your life.
Yeah, it's really weird because you'll just see famous people out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like it's I remember being down there. The most recent time I was down there was for a USA basketball thing. I think when we were trying to get Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan talking after the big trade, and you're just walking through the lobby. Like LeBron walks through, and then Russell Westbrook walks through, and then Durant walks through, and then you like. It's bedlam.
Yeah, it is.
It's like those guys can't walk around without causing a massive stir, right? And they got security. Most of them walk around with security because of that. And then you get a situation where when it's celebrity on celebrity, and apparently Brittany is claiming she just came up and tapped Victor on the shoulder. He says she grabbed him. It's and now the cops are involved. The Las Vegas police are involved on a battery case.
That's why, again, I'm shocked that Victor Wembanyama was speaking with the media.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just shocked the Spurs didn't say, you're not going out there.
Shut it down.
Yeah. Or if you do, just say no comment. And he's talking openly. He's
a nice kid.
No, exactly. I appreciate it. I have a lot of appreciation for it. And if you don't feel like he didn't do anything wrong, so it's like, okay. And if you don't talk about it now, you're going to talk about it at some point.
Yeah, and maybe that's the best policy.
And they're like, hey, just go
talk about it because you got nothing to hide.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just walking down the hallway.
Yeah.
She came up and had an altercation with
a security guard.
An allegedly out of proportion reaction from a security guard.
Wow.
So who knows?
Yep. Vegas, man. It's a wild scene out there. It is a wild scene.
How much wilder is it going to get in that town? If they got hockey, got football,
getting baseball.
They're going to get
NBA's
basketball.
going there.
LeBron's going to own the
100%. In the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to Vegas.
Have you seen that? They just built that new Sphere thing.
That Sphere looks wild.
I think
$2.3 billion.
$2.3 billion Sphere.
Yeah, and by all accounts, going to change the way you view concerts. Like U2's going in there, and they're going to start things off. And
U2's going in there. Their drummers on the DL, and they're still playing.
Yeah,
never played.
Well, they obviously got paid so much money.
I think they just had such a
and
contract.
And the Sphere's
on the
open.
line.
You better show up.
Yeah. It's like you're subbing in another drummer.
Yeah, because it's MSG, right? Like Dolan owns it.
Yeah, it's a James Dolan production.
Yeah.
And yeah, apparently the whole thing is like a video screen, and
Yeah.
it's just it's a wild, wild experience.
Yeah. Well, listen, and because it's in Vegas, it's going to get like the amount of publicity it's getting already is crazy.
Yeah, the pictures of the thing are just
Yeah, what it looks like on the
shocking.
outside, like you could only pull that off in Vegas.
Yeah.
Feels like you couldn't just have that downtown like city where it's like just constantly going
That
and
was
it's
just
annoying.
Yeah.
Like it looks annoying,
Oh yeah.
but it's compelling. Like I want to check it out.
Like if you
That's
had a
Vegas.
condo next to that thing.
It'd be, imagine how infuriating that would be if
mean-
you're right beside the Sphere. That thing is illuminating every second of the day.
There aren't blackout blinds thick enough to black out that thing.
No, that Sphere, man, you're picking that up from space.
You're right. I bet you are.
I'll bet you could. From space, you're going to see that Sphere.
It'll be the brightest thing on the strip.
But that speaks to Vegas. Like, teams are there now. The Sphere is there. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it doesn't, you still sell out.
Yeah.
Like, that'll sell out.
Oh, the prices and the prices are crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
What people pay. You know, I saw the U2 ticket prices. My wife's a big fan. I was like, we're not going to this.
No, you're
like,
not.
This ain't
Like,
for regular people.
Vegas alone is expensive.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go check out U2 at the Sphere and pay, what, $3,000 American to get in there? Or
Like,
whatever?
I know rich guys that were like, that's too expensive.
That's outrageous.
like,
But everyone assumes everything's comped in Vegas.
yeah.
And not everything is
It
comped.
used to be.
Yeah.
It's changed, man.
Exactly, because they know they don't have to anymore.
They charge you $8 for a coffee down there.
Exactly.
It's like there ain't nothing free in
Nothing
Vegas
is
anymore.
free anymore. It used to be if you're playing the tables, but now not everyone's there to play the tables.
Yeah.
That's what changed Vegas. Like you used to go to, if anyone was in Vegas, it was understood they were gambling.
Oh yeah.
So get them in your shop, make sure they stay in your shop. Now they're going down there to see Summer League and the Sphere and Britney Spears.
Eat at the great restaurants.
Exactly. They may never touch the felt.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that go to Vegas and will never gamble.
I bet it's the majority.
Probably,
maybe not the majority, but it's a lot.
probably now, like I would guess it's a majority that are there to do something else.
Right.
That doesn't mean they won't gamble.
Yeah, they might dabble in the
Yes.
gambling.
But like Vegas originally was you're going there to gamble.
for gambling.
Like you're
Yeah.
there to gamble, and then whatever else happens, happens.
Yeah, you might catch a show
Yeah.
between your gambling.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're there. You understand. You're going in there with money in pocket. You're buying chips, and you're gambling.
But now that you can gamble anywhere, you know, they got to
Yeah.
have other stuff. Right?
Exactly. Vegas is in, and credit to Vegas that the city and I guess the government's like we got to have something more than this.
Yeah.
Because you're right. You can go anywhere now and gamble. There's casinos all over the place.
Yeah. You can
And
bet on
you-
anything.
you bet-
can
if you have a
gamble on it,
phone
like
in an app-
or anywhere,
Exactly.
you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, but they still are, to their credit, like
It's entertainment
it's
now.
Still the spectacle of spectacles, right?
Yeah.
Like there is, and this Sphere thing is going to make it just one more notch on the
One
belt
more
of
thing
why
that
it's
maybe you go
somewhere
check
you want to
out.
go, right?
Yep. One more thing where you might have to go check it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
Vegas is a wild scene.
Crazy town, man.
It is. And the NBA, like to your point, will go. One of these will crap out. Something's not going to work.
I'm wondering
Like,
if it's
there's a
gonna be
pecking
baseball.
order. I think baseball.
Yeah.
Because there's too many games. It's in the summer. It's
Too
so
hot.
hot. Like people
hot.
are not in Vegas in July and August as much as they are in the fall and the spring.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's when you want to go to Vegas in April.
Right.
May. Like now, yes, baseball will be happening, but if the hockey team's in the playoffs, the NBA's in the playoffs, you go in the fall and you can go to an NFL game. You're doing that over a baseball game.
For sure.
I'm not sure baseball is going to work there,
It'd be interesting.
but it's difficult to doubt Vegas because what they do well is they sell.
They do.
They sell, and you're going to get people that are flying to Vegas for a 3-game homestand, and it's like, all right, I'm going to see the Jays in Vegas. I'm going to all 3 games.
That might be the thing, right?
Come on down for 3 days, midweek. And maybe that actually will be beneficial because you'll get people that will go during the week to catch games.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to go maybe on the weekend. I don't know. We'll see. But it's exploded. Like when you consider 15 years ago, it was radioactive. You couldn't go there. Like commissioners wouldn't allow it. Like David Stern was never going to allow that to happen.
Like of all the things that have happened in our lifetime of watching sports, that might be the most shocking.
Yes.
It's the way it's
What
gone
happened
from
with Vegas.
We don't touch gambling to all we do is make money off gambling.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. We are all in on the gambling world, and we're all in on Vegas.
Yeah.
And that speaks to how Vegas has changed because the gambling has exploded. Where Vegas, you couldn't go there because it was simply synonymous with gambling.
Right.
It wasn't a town, it was a gambling hut.
Yeah.
And now that's softened, not necessarily because they've softened. They're still gambling. Like the casino bosses are still making money, and they're trying to. But it's that everything else is, the boats have started to float up around Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Vegas hasn't gone south. They haven't changed their tune when it comes to gambling.
I just wonder how long, like, we've seen some NFL players getting suspended for
Yeah.
violating the gambling policies. You hear murmurs. I know that I had a guy tell me that it's an epidemic problem with athletes just love gambling.
They love to gamble. They love action.
Yeah.
Because it's wins and losses.
Right. And you wonder when the next big scandal will come. Like, there's been small scandals.
You're right, though. There will, at some point in our lifetime, be a someone's going to throw games.
You got to believe.
Like, it's going to happen at some point where it comes out that someone threw something.
I think so.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
I mean, I know it's happened in every sport at some point. But yeah, like somebody high profile.
Right. Like
somebody where it's big stakes, right?
Yes. Like something legit happened.
Yeah.
Legit. Like he missed that free throw on purpose and we know it.
Because there's so much action, man. There's so many guys with action.
There's a lot of action. All right, Dave. Great seeing you, man. Thanks for doing this, as always. There's Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Jonah Siegel will be back tomorrow. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll chat then.